Hello, Pooja. Can you hear me? Jaxi? Okay.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session of SecPod webcast. I'm Jexir, your host. And through SecPod Labs Intelligence series, we bring to you the latest happenings at SecPod and exciting stuff we are working on. Today's topic is interesting one. We wanted to make sure we bring our experts to talk about this and address a few things about Apache Log4j vulnerability that has been assigned a CVE code CVE 2021-44228. I'd like to introduce today's panel. I have uh, Virendra and Pooja from our security intelligence team, and then I have Melvin George from our product engineering team. Before we begin, I'd like to remind all that this is a recorded, there will be a recorded version of the webinar that will be available on Bright Talk and our YouTube channel. We will also be sending a recording to your email after the session, so you can watch it and share with others in your team. Towards the end of the session, we will have a Q&A, and we'd love to hear from you. Virendra, Pooja, and Melvin are here to answer your questions. Any questions that you have during the session, please feel free to post them in the questions box just below the video on your browser. And for those who are just joining us, welcome. And I'd like to go through quickly about today's agenda. We talk about Apache Log4 vulnerability. Then we're also going to show you a quick demonstration of how to detect Log4j and how to remediate. And then we're going to take questions from our audience and have our experts address them. So starting with that, Virendra, over to you to talk a little bit about Log4j.
Hello, everyone. Uh, this is one of the critical vulnerabilities as we are seeing it, and today we are trying to understand a little bit about this vulnerability, and we'll try to understand what is the vulnerability, what is the impact, how attacker are exploiting this vulnerability, etc. So to before jump into the vulnerability analysis or understanding the vulnerability, would like to understand what is Apache Log4j. So Apache Log4j is a popular Java-based logging library developed and maintained by Apache Foundation. This library is extensively used in many services and applications as a logging framework for Java applications. And what is JNDI? It's a Java naming directory interface. Uh, Basically, it's a application programming interface that is provides a naming and directory functionality to the application written using Java. It also allows a Java application to discover and look up data and resources via the name. And LDAP, this is a protocol used for interacting with directory servers. It's mostly used for authentication and storing and querying information about users, groups, and application. These are the few things we need to understand before we jump into understanding about this critical vulnerability. So yeah, so let's try what is Apache Log4j vulnerability. The the vulnerability exists in Apache Log4. It's due to the way Apache Log4 library handles log messages and processed by this library. The vulnerability is mainly used for logging mechanism. The vulnerability exists in the logging mechanism itself. And this vulnerability has been assigned with a CVE identified as CVE 2021 uh, hyphen 44228. This is also termed as log4 shell or logjam. People name nowadays people are naming all the vulnerabilities with some naming conventions. As this is leading to shell or a remote code execution, they also named it as log4 shell and other things. And how attackers are exploiting, we'll try to understand how attackers are exploiting this vulnerability. So let's understand the anatomy of the exploit, how attackers are using this vulnerability to get execute a remote shell. The Log4j library widely used, and why it is important, why it is so much important, we'll try to understand first. This CV gained so much attention from past 2 to 3 days, especially during the weekends. I think many companies were started working on detection and prevention signatures where they can stop this vulnerability. So this application is being used by various commercial and open source applications as a logging framework, which includes web and mobile application servers, email servers, cloud services, and various other applications. This is basically a logging framework where it helps any application to log the requests. And this vulnerability can be exploited by unauthenticated attackers to execute remote code on the affected system. Most importantly, any element within the application which logs user input in an exploit vector, any HTTP headers, all forms of fields, or any input from the user application is application trying to log in as an attack vector. So let's try to understand how attacker can exploit this vulnerability. As you can see in the slide, first what attacker will do is attacker will set up a malicious LDAP server. This is just an example. Instead of LDAP server, there are various other servers can also be used. In this demo, we are just taking example of LDAP server. So the attacker will set up a malicious LDAP server. Then he will find an application which is vulnerable to this vulnerability. Then he will try to inject malicious or a crafted request in various fields. It could be, to give an example, it could be a login form, or it could be any field in the form, or it could be in the header also. As long as the mm, input, whatever attacker is injecting, if it is going to the logging system, or if it is being logged in the logs, that is where the problem exists. And these are all using all these vectors, he will try to inject a specially crafted request with a JNDI and a link reference back to the LDAP server exploit. He will input these fields in various login parameters, input forms, as I mentioned. As soon as he does the as soon as he injects this malicious request into these fields, and application log4j, which is a library which, if it parses this and processes this injected field, that time it will read that malicious request, and it will try to get the exploit or a malicious code or a malicious Java class or anything from that LDAP server, the malicious LDAP server set up by the attacker. So as soon as that is triggered, the LDAP server will send a malicious request, malicious file or a class to the requested application, in this case vulnerable application, and then that gets executed. Once that in that exploit, attacker can have anything. He can have a reverse shell, he can have various other payloads, which can do various other harms. So basically, the vulnerability makes it possible for any attacker who can inject text into log messages or log message parameters into the server logs that load code from the remote servers. That way, attacker will get the attacker will be able to execute the remote code. So that is basic anatomy, and it is quite it is little complex if you go into technically, but the exploitation, the way it works is very easy. It doesn't require interaction of users. It doesn't require any other authentication to perform this remote code execution. And why this is so much critical, or why this CV has been assigned with the CVSS score as 10, which is the highest, right? So a few things are like, one is this is a widely used Java logging applications, logging framework, we can say. And it's remotely exploitable. That way, attacker no need to, if that vulnerable application is facing a public network that is good enough for attacker to exploit that vulnerability, and it does not require any authentication. So one of the mostly majority of the critical vulnerabilities requires authentication. Here in this case, it doesn't require anything, and attack complexity is very low, and user interaction is not at all required, and it has a number of attack vectors. If you take a few vulnerability examples where there will be various fields, specific field in those cases, specific fields will be vulnerable. Take an example of SQL injection in the login form. That login form field, username and password, that is vulnerable. But in this case, any field, it can be a login or after logging in, or HTTP headers also, as long as those fields are getting recorded in the log, all those are the attack vectors or exploit points where attacker can inject those exploits. And one more thing is the attacker sends the payload to the system, right? That can be encoded, that can be compressed, it can be encrypted. That way, attacker can bypass various other attacker can bypass IDS, IPS, or any security softwares using encryption or encoding. That way, it is not restricted. Payload is not restricted. Attacker can literally execute. He can encrypt or encode, and he can just directly execute any code on the system. That's why it is given as the highest score. And what is the impact? When we think of the impact here, basically it's a remote code execution, where unauthenticated remote code execution. What can go wrong? So as long if attacker can execute this any remote code, that means that whole system gets compromised. So from there, he can move laterally to any other systems as well, or he can get sensitive information from that affected system as well. So it's very critical. That is the major impact. And what are the affected versions? So the affected versions is Apache Log4j version from 2.0 to 2.14.1. All versions are affected. There are older versions. We saw like there are older version like Log4j 1.x series where this JNDI and JNDI especially, that is a vulnerable module that is not present. So those are not considered as vulnerable. That is on the and next. So is SecPod is covering how SecPod is protecting against these vulnerabilities. We have two things. One is remote coverage, where we have a network scanner where it can detect remotely the corresponding application is vulnerable or not. And also we have a local scripts which can detect presently this application used by various software big softwares and various frameworks as well. To give an example, ELK is there, Elasticsearch, Logstash, Apache Struts, like that. There are various big softwares or products are affected by this. So and this number is going to increase gradually as many vendors are analyzing this. And local, that's why we are covering whatever vendor is confirmed that these are the applications are vulnerable. We are trying to cover whatever is possible, and we already have coverage for few of the products already. And I think Pooja can tell that she's going to. We are going to have a demo where she will tell how we are covering that. Over to you,
I
Jixi.
think thanks. Yeah, thanks, Viru. Thanks for the detailed overview. You are very modest. I'm sure. I mean, if I were to sit with you and understand this vulnerability in detail, we can talk for hours. But now we have Pooja with us. Pooja, so what Pooja is going to show us is a real-time demonstration of how we can detect this Log4j, Apache Log4j vulnerability, and then also talk a little bit about remediation. Pooja?
Yes, Jaxi. Just let me know if you can see my screen.
Yeah.
You're able to see Sena now?
Yes, fantastic. Yes.
Yes, so as Virendra already mentioned that this is getting bigger by the day. I think Friday evening in India, we started figuring it out that this is a critical vulnerability. And as any administrator or a tool like us would like to highlight as much information as possible to customers. So how do we do that? First thing is, like, if you are an administrator who's managing your environment, you would want to understand that if the vulnerable jar or component is actually present in your environment. So the log4j which we are discussing. So we go to asset management. We can actually check if the vulnerable asset is present in our environment. So you can see application details here. This is a list of all the applications that are known to be installed, I mean, that are identified to be installed in this environment. So I would just choose all and search for log4j. So it would list the devices that have these components, and it is a straight view for any admin to know that these devices have the affected component installed. So right now we can see that we have 4 devices where this is known to 5 devices where it is known to be installed, and two of them have 1.2.17, which is a fixed version. These two devices have the lower version, which is affected. Virendra already shared that 2.0 up to 2.15 is affected. So we do see two of them that have this vulnerable application in the affected range. And here we do not know. We will go further and figure out why this basically the reason version is not identified here is because it is from a remote check. We do not have that detail, which is why it is not being shown up here. So next, once you know that there is Log4j installed, and you may want to read about it and figure out how critical it is. For that, we have a section called as high fidelity attacks, where we maintain all the critical vulnerabilities that are being exploited in the wild. When there is a lot of information, even anything that gets exploited, if there's a botnet, there's a malware that is released, we track it and ensure that you get to know in your environment if there is a vulnerability that is open and can be exploited using the exploits that are known publicly. So here for Log4j, we have one of these MBEs from where you can actually read about it, figure out what this exploit is trying to do. Also, we mentioned the other details like affected versions and specific behavior of a particular malware or botnet. There are other malwares or botnets also which Virendra mentioned, and we also can identify the number of devices that are affected. So here I can see that there are two devices that already are affected and exploitable. So it is easy for admin to prioritize and think about patching these devices first and over any other device or application that is present in the environment. So going further, how do we identify it? Virendra already mentioned that we have local and remote scan. Why we have this combination of local and remote scan? Because in any company, the environment is very diverse. You have different type of devices, and it cannot be just a local scan can detect all the vulnerabilities. So here especially Log4j, with the challenges that we are seeing, with the kind of environments that are coming up as affected, and every day, I think starting from Saturday, every day the number of applications that have been known to be affected has been increasing. So we need to ensure that we are up to the mark even in detection, and ensuring that more and more devices we can detect and protect them at the earliest. So I'll just show you how we can scan. Yeah. So for local scan, once an agent is installed on the device, it would list here. So you can just choose. I have a DBN11 device. I can say select that and say scan now, which would scan the device, and it takes around 5 minutes for the scan to complete. And you can actually go in and check if you are affected. We do see the vulnerable component, that liblog4j, which we are talking of, and the CV that we have been discussing in this webinar, 44228, is affected. So this is our local check that identifies if a particular binary is installed on the machine and figures out if it is affected. Then we also have remote checks, which will run from a remote machine, check if a different device is affected and flag it as vulnerable. So let's go and see how we do that. So I clicked on the settings. Now coming to organizations, I choose SecPod here, network scanner. So I would just want to brief what these are. Yeah, so scanner basically is, you can, for running a remote scan, a device X needs to scan another device Y. The scanner needs to be running from X. That device is the scanner. So I can actually set up any of my devices where agent can be installed as a scanner, and it would get listed here. I would show how do we do that. Then scan config. So in case of Log4, log4j shell, I would want to specifically scan a particular port or a set of ports and a particular network. For that, I can use scan config. Scan policy. Now we have a huge set of remote checks that we use for identifying vulnerabilities on remote environments and network devices. So you may not be, at least at this point when log4j is making so much noise, we may not be of interest in scanning the other vulnerabilities. We might be keen in checking if my environment is affected for this. So you can actually update the policy here. Come down to I think I've already selected log4j. So this you can just choose. Ideally, if you're running it on a regular basis, we select all the rules, so you know any network vulnerability exists in your environment, you can identify. But in times like this, where you are interested in a particular vulnerability, you can only select that and create policy. So update policy, it would say. This is my default policy. You can also create a fresh policy and use that as well. So I'll just show how do we set up a scanner and make sure we are able to scan a remote device. So click on create a new scanner. Choose a device, like whichever device is having agent installed will get listed here. You can actually decide which device you want to use as a scanner. Scan config name. This is just a name or a placeholder for you to identify what is the vulnerability. So, or whatever you issue you want to identify and figure out easier way. So we can name it. And targets, I can actually give a subnet or a network or the exact IP. It again depends on my choice. Then exclude list. So generally in in our corporate environments, we do not want to scan some servers or critical machines. So if you're choosing the entire network, you can actually exclude specific devices and provide their IPs, comma separated list. And then there is a drop down for ports. So any remote scan, you need to, it would scan on the open ports. So based on the vulnerability, you can make a choice on which ports you want to select. And if you want details, you can always click on this question marks and it would provide additional information. Apart from that, you can also choose none here and enter custom port. So if you know 8080 is the port it's going to be listening on, you can actually update that as well. I would be choosing default ports. Scan schedule, you can again come back and choose based on your preferences. I'm not, one second, yeah. What is it? Should be unique. Okay, there is already a name, it says. I'm just creating. Yeah, I already told you about the scan policy that I created. So I'm choosing the same policy. So you can see here it is getting the scanner ready. Once it is ready, we can call for a scan. Yeah, so I would just move on to the next because, yeah, here is the scan button. It would get enabled as soon as it is ready. Now, if you go to the devices page and check for the network, this is the network device that has been scanned, and you can see that the same vulnerability that we were talking of is detected here as well. So we use this combination of both local and remote checks to ensure that we have complete detection in an environment and complete visibility. Now, once we have detected, again, log4j has been challenging in many ways. Once we have detected that it is vulnerable, we again want to patch or mitigate this issue. And patching also it has not been very straightforward because of the kind of jar that is being deployed and the nature of the vulnerability. So if there are binaries where patches are released by the vendor, so if you were to look at Elasticsearch or Logstash, the patches are already available from the vendors. As and when vendors are releasing these patches, we are going ahead and making sure that we can patch them as well. But there is also challenges, like it cannot be in all the environments. We are not able to because not all the vendors have confirmed the vulnerability, or they have not yet updated their packages, because many are still figuring out if they are vulnerable, and they're working on creating the patches. So a workaround is available. Even that can be deployed using a product. I would just demonstrate on that too. So to fix the issue, we move to patch management, PM, then move to most critical patches, all groups. So I showed you the vulnerabilities were present in DBN. We can choose both of them or either. And then choose the patch, apply selected patch. Here you can just provide a placeholder name for whatever vulnerability you are trying to patch. This is useful when you want to know the status, if it has been patched, and if there is a reboot pending, it is useful for you. You can also configure whether you want to patch immediately, wait for a scheduled scan, or do it in a later point of time. And if you want to control reboot, that option as well is available. There are various other options, like you can say by when it should complete, or if you want to stop a service before starting to patch, or bring up a service post patching, that is possible through remediation scripts. Then if you want to push a notification to the customer environment and inform them, I mean, if you want to inform the employees or the owners of the desktop that there is a remediation activity, you can push a notification, or you can test on various devices to ensure that this patch is not going to break something. That option as well is available. So we can choose. Right now, I would just be setting the remediation job. So we can say immediate and say apply selected patches. This is when a binary is available and patch has been released by the vendor. So in case of Elasticsearch or Logstash, we can do this. But what in cases where there is no binary available and vulnerability exists? And since it is such a critical issue, we do not want to wait for the patch to be released. We want to take action. So there are workarounds which Apache has released, and we have created our scripts internally to handle this vulnerability, to ensure that the class is not loaded, so that it cannot be exploited, and there is no lookup activity happening. So if that script is already available in our blog, and how we can deploy it using Sena now, go to EM. EM is endpoint management. Under that, actions, software deployment. I'm choosing Linux. So I've already uploaded the patch. But if it's not uploaded, you can actually download. The zip is available in our blog. You can download it and just drag and drop here. Once it is loaded, it says complete. You can close. Then it would list here. You need to click on this, edit, change you need to mention where this is a shell script that runs in your endpoints and removes the vulnerable class. So you need to provide the path where the shell scripts needs to be extracted, and this is the name of the shell script. Once you've updated that, you can choose. Just a second. Yeah, you can actually choose here. DBN has the fix. If there is any other application like Flink where fix is not released, you can choose say next, and then it is just the way we set the remediation job. That is how this works as well. This is not only for zip files that are created internally by us. Even if a script or a mitigation script is created by your team, that too can be uploaded, and the same process can be followed for installing it. Yeah, I think I've covered how we are handling Log4j vulnerability. Over to you, Jagsir.
Thanks, Pooja. That was interesting. And definitely, if anybody has any questions, please, you can put them in the questions box, and then Pooja can take them up towards the end of the session. Talking about securing from Log4j vulnerability, I would also like us to address how are we handling that at SecPod, and what have we done for that. We have our expert Melvin from product engineering. Melvin, can you talk a little bit about how have we covered ourselves from this vulnerability? A few of we have received a few inquiries about how have we handled. Would you like to share your thoughts?
Sure, Jagsir. So as Virendra explained that the Log4j vulnerability is mainly on two parts. One is the Log4j version that is used and how it is depending on the JNDI modules. So for our product and our infrastructure, we went ahead and analyzed whether we are using Log4j library, and we analyzed the version of the Log4j libraries that we are using, and the versions that we are using are not vulnerable. So Virendra mentioned that it is the vulnerable versions are from version 2.0 up to 2.14.1. So those versions of the Log4j library we are not using. But we did not stop there. We proceeded to analyzing it further and looked up how the libraries that we are using, how that is associated with the JNDI modules. Is it utilizing the JNDI module at all? And we haven't bundled those JNDI classes along with those Log4j jars that we are using. Meaning, if at all there is a mistake on our side and there is some sort of a attack or anything that is happening, since there are no JNDI classes bundled with these Log4j jars, the lookup will not happen, and any communication that contacts the malicious server, the left server set up by the attacker, and downloading all that malicious code, such things will not happen because the JNDI lookup itself will not happen. So I would confidently say that we are not affected by this vulnerability for the Saner now product and the infrastructure that we have.
Fantastic. So that allows me to go and tweet that we are safe.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Veer, can you talk a little bit about the infrastructure? Have we handled security from an infrastructure point of view?
Thank you, Jagsir. Yeah, as Melvin mentioned that our Sena product or a platform is safe. Even other products which we have like Escape Repo, those are also same, and the reason is same, which is same as Sena platform which Melvin mentioned. So apart from this, we also checked any other servers or softwares which we are using have this vulnerability, and we are able to find one internal server which had this vulnerability. And but good thing is this server, this is internal server and it is not exposed to public. That's a good part. And also we went ahead and applied the patches. We upgraded the version to the latest version, patched version, so that in case attacker, like we never know, they might be inside sometime or we don't know. So that's the reason we went ahead and applied the patches on that system as well. So apart from that, we have not found any vulnerabilities. This especially this Log4j vulnerabilities or any other servers or infra. What do you just say?
Fantastic. That brings us towards the end of the session, and I would request all of our audience to post any questions or clarifications that you need from my experts here. And just look at questions do we have so far. Okay, I have one question. Um, are there actual exploits being happening in the wild that we are aware of? Viru, Pooja, would you like to take that up?
Yeah, I would like to take that up. Yes, there are few cybersecurity companies which observed it is being exploited in the wild. Also, it is this exploit has been bundled in the mass malware like Mirai and Tsunami 3, etc. And those normally the purpose of those is to do various DDoS attack, crypto mining, and stealing the information, etc. So that is happening.
Okay, okay. I think we'll keep publishing more and more information on our blog regarding this Log4j vulnerability. Another question I have is, okay, we are a manufacturing firm. Should we be careful about Log4j vulnerability?
Yeah, I think any device that is open to the world is with Java running is more or less affected. The probability of it being affected is very high. I don't think this is limited to any particular software environment or anything like that. So all of us are using devices, and majority of us are running Java in some form or the other. So I think yes, all of us need to be worried.
I would like to add a point. One more point here is like people should consider this vulnerability as if it is there in their system. Try to find because this is a Log4j, which is a common library. It's either embedded in many frameworks, open source frameworks. Also, it is used by various developers while developing. It's a common. If your company, if any company, even the manufacturer or any industry, if they are using any form of Java technology, then they should make sure that they are not using. They should perform system-wide search, make sure that they are not vulnerable to this attack, because this is very critical one. So that should be taken seriously.
Yeah, Virendra, and maybe I'll also add one point here in case there are any non-technical folks also in the audience. So, like failure to address this vulnerability, it might result in a scenario where uh, there would be a shell session that is open to somebody who is unauthorized, and that shell, like just imagine the case where a shell session is open for an unauthorized person for prolonged time. I'm talking about days or weeks without being known. So what all bad things could happen regarding that could be happening at the moment, and we might not be aware of it unless we go ahead and detect whether these uh, vulnerable versions of the library are there and whether they are remediated or not. um, that can like increase our chances to avoid anything like ransomware or some sort of backdoor that causes harm to the business later on. So I would say that no, maybe if you're aware that no, there is a Java application running in your computer and it is connected to the internet, please go ahead and run a scan just to be on the safer side, to be sure that you are not vulnerable or vulnerable. Yeah.
Thanks for that suggestion, Melvin. Fantastic. So another question, maybe Pooja, you can take up is, do I need all the products VM, PM, AM enabled in my Saner Now dashboard to be able to detect this vulnerability?
So all these three are meant for different purposes. It again depends on if you're only looking for a patch management solution, we have our PM. If you're looking for something along with vulnerability management VM, you also want to know which are the vulnerabilities in your environment and you want to patch them, then you might need a combination of VM and PM. So it is again dependent on the environment and what the company or the person is trying to achieve through our platform.
And
Okay.
if you are want just the detection, VM is good enough for you.
Okay, amazing. I think those were the questions that we had from our audience. Unless any more questions for our experts here, else we are good to wrap up the session. Okay, cool. Thanks, Veeru, Pooja, and Melvin for your time today. And for our audience, I'd like to remind that we will be sending a recorded version of this webinar to your email, so you can view it again or share it with your team. In case you have any questions that you need our experts to clarify, please feel free to drop us an email at info@secpod.com. Yeah, we do have for those who of you are not using Saner now as of now, we do have a free trial that you can avail and test Saner now to detect and maybe also remediate Log4j vulnerabilities infrastructure. With that, we'll wrap up today's session, and thanks all of you for your time.
Thank you, Jagsir.
Thank you, Jagsir. Thank you, everyone,
Thanks, Pooja.
for your
Thanks,
time.
Veeru. Thanks, Melvin. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.